Welcome to the Phil and H Travel Podcast. Is it worth it? Today we are heading to Tulum, Mexico, the Caribbean coastal town on the Riviera Maya, 2 hours south of Cancun, famous for its clifftop Mayan ruins, its freshwater cenote cave network, and until recently for being one of the most expensive beach destinations in the Americas. In this episode, we cover exactly what Tulum costs in 2026 for us every traveler type, and the numbers have genuinely changed the best and worst months to visit with the Sargassum seaweed window that ruins beach trips. The three logistics traps from the infamous taxi cartel to the beach club minimum spend game, why the town's 30% occupancy collapse and the new Tulum Airport are creating a window for real value, whether the cenotes and the ruins still deliver, and our honest is it worth it verdict for 5 traveler types: backpacker, mid-range couple, family, luxury traveler, and digital nomad. The Great Tulum Correction. Is it worth it in 2026? The answer may surprise you.
Exactly. And, to really set the framework for today's deep dive, I just want to be incredibly clear right up front. Our goal today is not to just sit here and completely bash Tulum.
Right? Which is what everyone is doing.
Yeah, that's the easy, lazy route that a lot of travel media takes right now.
Right.
Instead, we are going to forensically examine the mathematical and logistical reality on the ground in 2026. We're going to compare it against that mythological hyperinflated peak of 2021 and 2022. Because when a travel destination experiences an economic correction of the sheer magnitude, it creates massive ripples across the entire industry.
Oh, absolutely.
And more importantly, it creates pockets of genuine value for you, the listener, if you know exactly where to look and, well, how to avoid the remaining traps.
Which there are plenty of.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine stepping off a plane, dropping $3,000 for a long weekend of this bohemian jungle luxury and arriving to find a beach that literally smells like rotten eggs.
Yep.
And just an endless row of empty bamboo bars playing deep house music to absolutely nobody.
It's bleak.
It is. That is the jarring reality that so many travelers faced leading up to this moment. So let's unpack this great correction, because the numbers here are absolutely staggering. I mean, we are talking about a destination that built its entire modern identity around this aggressive exclusivity.
Right, the velvet ropes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Turning people away at velvet ropes planted literally in the sand and charging an outrageous premium just for the aesthetic vibe. But looking at the defining number of 2026, the illusion has officially shattered.
Completely shattered.
Because hotel zone occupancy plummeted to 30% in the summer of 2025, and in the Pueblo, the inland town center, occupancy hit a devastating 15%.
Yeah, and to put those numbers into the proper economic perspective for you, for a hotel to simply cover its daily operational costs.
Just to keep the lights on.
Right, just to break even. We are talking about paying the cleaning staff, running those massive industrial diesel generators, maintaining the air conditioning, combating the constant jungle moisture they usually need to hover around that 50 to 60% occupancy mark.
Wow.
Hitting 30% on the beach and 15% in town isn't just a slow season. That is a structural collapse of demand.
A total collapse.
And the Quintana Roo Tourism Bureau data backs this up with a nearly 20% year-on-year drop in overall visitor numbers for 2025.
Which is huge.
It is. And airlines are the ultimate leading indicator here, right? They do not run empty planes out of charity.
Definitely not.
They actively and aggressively cut flight capacity throughout the year just to match this massive, undeniable drop in consumer demand.
Wild to think about. And you really see it reflected in the luxury rates, which is where, honestly, the pain is being felt the most right now. Back in 2021, the absolute peak of the madness, average luxury rates were hitting an eye-watering $971 a night.
Which is just insane.
Right. And by 2024, that had fallen to $670. Now, in 2026, 20 to 40% discounts are just standard across properties that used to have 6-month wait lists.
It's a totally different landscape.
It is. But here's where it gets really interesting to me, just from a purely cultural standpoint. The culture actively turned on Tulum.
Oh, heavily.
Have you looked at the Spanish language social media feeds lately?
Yeah, the memes are everywhere.
The Tulum collapse meme is absolutely everywhere. Locals and Latin American travelers are making these viral videos openly mocking the empty beach clubs, the abandoned yoga shalas, and the closed-down fusion taco stands. The phrase gringo prices isn't just a quiet complaint mumbled under your breath anymore.
No, it's a genre of comedy now.
It has become a literal punchline for an entire continent.
It really has. And it's the inevitable market result of pricing yourself vastly beyond the actual value of the experience you're delivering. Now, looking at the current pricing landscape for 2026, it is genuinely layered and honestly full of contradictions.
How so?
Well, the hotel zone still averages around $450 a night.
Wait, still?
Yeah. Interestingly, that is actually a 25% increase over 2023.
That makes no sense if demand is crashing.
Exactly. But what that tells you as a consumer is that the sticker pricing on the official websites is stubbornly resisting the reality of the discount environment. The hoteliers are terrified of devaluing their brand.
Oh, I see.
So they keep the official rates high on the front end, but they are heavily discounting behind the scenes through third-party platforms and last-minute deals.
Right, trying to save face.
Exactly. Meanwhile, in the Pueblo, the bottom has completely fallen out. You can get a budget hostel dorm bed for $15 to $25 right now.
Wow.
A mid-range beach-adjacent hotel is running $120 to $200 a night, which is down massively from the $350 they were demanding at the peak.
That's a huge drop.
It is. If you look at kayak data for this coming weekend, the absolute cheapest room available in the entire area is sitting at just 12 to 27 British pounds.
You're kidding.
No, 12 pounds. That's a rounding error compared to peak years.
Which brings me to the biggest contradiction of all. If access to this region has never been easier, I mean, we literally have the brand new Tulum Airport and the Maya train opening up incredible new transit routes. Why are people actively choosing to stay away? If you build a multi-billion-dollar train line right to the front door of a paradise, shouldn't it be booming?
You would think so. But it comes down to a fundamental structural miscalculation by the government and the developers. The infrastructure improvements arrived far too late to save the destination's narrative.
So the damage was done.
Exactly. Yes, the Tulum Airport TQO opened in December 2023. Yes, the Maya train now connects Cancun all the way down to Palenque. The logistical access is completely transformed.
Right.
But lack of access wasn't the reason people stopped coming. They stopped coming because the financial value proposition completely evaporated. And, well, because of the real unmanaged villain of the entire coastal region.
Sargassum.
Yep, the Sargassum.
Oh, the Sargassum. For those of you who haven't had the distinct displeasure of experiencing this firsthand, we are not talking about a few pieces of harmless green kelp washing up on the sand.
No, it's not a normal beach day.
Not at all. We're talking about an endless floating belt of brown macroalgae that completely suffocates the coastline. It washes ashore in rotting mats that are literally a meter deep.
Sometimes deeper.
Yeah, it creates a physical barrier between you and the ocean. It creates a visual pollution that completely ruins the pristine turquoise water aesthetic you paid thousands of dollars to see.
Then the smell.
The smell. As it decomposes under the brutal tropical sun, it produces hydrogen sulfide gas, which emits this horrific, inescapable rotten egg smell.
It's nauseating.
And while the environment is collapsing like this, the costs are still rising in other areas. Like the National Institute of Anthropology and History, INAH recently doubled the entrance fees for 193 archaeological sites across the country.
Right, the ruin fees.
The Tulum ruins and Coba just jumped from 104 to 209 pesos, which is about $12.
Which, sure, $12 is still relatively cheap on a global scale.
Right, but it's part of this broader, undeniable pattern. The authorities are trying to capture more revenue per individual visitor, even as the total volume of visitors is in freefall.
It's a desperate cash grab, which naturally brings us to the single most critical strategic decision you will make for this entire trip, and that's playing calendar roulette.
Oh, yeah. This is everything.
Because the specific month you choose to visit fundamentally alters the physical and economic reality of the destination. Let's break down the year analytically.
Let's do it.
December through March is the peak dry season. The temperatures are a highly comfortable 24 to 29 degrees Celsius. The Caribbean Sea is a perfect 26 to 27 degrees.
Beautiful.
Rain is statistically minimal. And most importantly, from a value standpoint, Sargassum is at its absolute annual lowest point.
This is the magical window. I mean, this is when the beaches actually look like the hyper-saturated Instagram photos you've been sold. You can walk out of your room, step onto white sand, and actually swim in clear water without smelling sulfur.
Exactly.
But, of course, that environmental perfection comes with a punishing price tag. It's the highest demand window of the year, driven almost entirely by North Americans desperate to escape the winter snow.
Right.
Average hotel rates hit their peak at 329 British pounds a night.
Oh.
Flight algorithms know exactly what you were doing,
Yeah.
so airfare hits its annual maximum.
Yeah. Yep. You pay for the perfection. Then we shift into the transition period, which is April and May.
The shoulder season.
Right. The humidity starts climbing and temperatures start pushing upwards to 28 to 32 degrees. And this is when the sargassum really begins arriving in serious volume, usually late March or early April.
You can literally watch it wash in.
Yeah. By mid-May, you are seeing significant disruptive mats accumulating on the beach. Prices soften slightly in response, but booking in this window is a massive gamble.
A huge gamble.
If you are traveling in April or May, you absolutely must be checking live tracking sites like sargassummonitoring.com on a daily basis before you finalize anything non-refundable.
And then we enter the dark times.
The dark times.
June, July, and August. The absolute heart of the sargassum season. The climate is brutal. It is 30 to 34 degrees, wildly humid, with regular, violent afternoon thunderstorms that just wash out your plans.
And the seaweed.
The seaweed on the beach is 1 to 2 meters deep. Tractors are desperately trying to clear it, but they literally can't keep up, so you just hear diesel engines revving all day long. And yet this is where I get really confused.
Why people still go?
Yes. If these summer conditions are so famously, undeniably bad, why hasn't the tourism market adjusted to reflect that? Why are people still paying moderate to high prices in July for a beach vacation where you literally cannot use the beach?
It is a fascinating psychological and demographic trap. You have millions of U.S. families, teachers, and college students who only have time off during the rigid summer school schedule.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. They want a tropical beach vacation, they look at short flight times to Mexico, and they just blindly book Tulum without ever researching the highly specific seasonal ecology of the Riviera Maya.
They just see Mexico and assume it's perfect year-round.
Exactly. The hotels and the massive booking platforms certainly aren't advertising the rotting seaweed on their landing pages, so demand stays artificially moderate based purely on a continuous influx of naive summer vacationers.
Wow.
They show up, realize within 5 minutes that they cannot swim in the ocean, and are forced to spend their entire expensive week sitting in a hotel pool.
That is just heartbreaking. Imagine saving up all year for a hard-earned vacation, only to spend it trapped by a wall of smelly seaweed. Moving into September and October, we hit the hurricane peak.
Yeah, the real off-season.
Now, these are the absolute cheapest months to be in Tulum. Rates drop by a staggering 50 to 70%. A beautiful $250 boutique room suddenly plummets to 60 or $100.
Which sounds great, but
But there is a genuine, dangerous weather risk here. We saw major infrastructure destroying hurricane impacts in the region in 2020, 2023, and 2025. You are rolling the dice with your safety and your flights.
which leaves us with the analytical sweet spot.
November.
November is the undisputed 2026 sweet spot. The sargassum season is finally ending as the ocean currents shift, and the severe hurricane risk is effectively gone by mid-month.
Thank goodness.
The stifling summer humidity breaks, and temperatures are back down to a highly comfortable 26 to 29 degrees. And because the massive Christmas crowds haven't arrived yet, pricing remains 25 to 35% below those peak winter rates.
So it's the perfect window.
If you want maximum mathematical value against experience quality, you lock in your dates for November.
And the vibe on the ground right now. In that sweet spot, it is surreal. Empty beach chairs lining the sand. Incredibly quiet hotel lobbies where the staff honestly outnumber the guests.
Sounds amazing to me.
If you are a luxury seeker who just wants absolute peace, a good book, and a beautifully designed room, 2026 is an absolute dream scenario. You have the run in the place. But if you are coming looking for that wild, vibrant, table dancing party energy that defined 2021, you're going to be severely disappointed.
Yeah, that era is over.
It is. You're going to feel like you arrived at the club after the DJ already packed up his gear, turned on the fluorescent lights, and went home.
But knowing that November is the sweet spot doesn't really help you if you lose all your savings the second you step off the plane.
Very true.
Which brings us to the friction of arrival and the logistics of navigating this newly transformed region. Because landing here is a fundamentally different economic experience now than it was just 3 years ago.
This is the new airport.
Exactly. The new Tulum Airport TQO sits 25 kilometers inland, carved directly out of the jungle. You can fly direct from major hubs: Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, JFK, Miami, Chicago. American, Delta, United, JetBlue, Aeromexico, they have all established routes.
That's a lot of lift.
It is. To give you the hard numbers, a flight from Dallas runs $280 to $550 in the shoulder season, scaling up to $750 in peak winter. From JFK, you are looking at $350 to $650 shoulder and up to $900 peak.
And let me warn you right now, when you land at TQO, getting from the tarmac to the beach is not a seamless complimentary experience.
Oh, definitely not.
An official airport taxi to town will run you 450 to 700 pesos, which is about $25 to $40 for a relatively short 20 to 30-minute drive. And whatever you do, use the official taxi rank pricing inside the terminal.
Yeah, do not go outside.
Do not try to negotiate with the aggressive, unmetered drivers hanging around outside the doors. They will sense your travel fatigue and absolutely fleece you.
The primary logistical alternative, which a massive portion of travelers still use due to flight availability, is Cancun International, CUN. It's located 130 kilometers north.
A bit of a hike.
It is. The flights into Cancun are generally significantly cheaper and far more frequent, but the mathematical trade-off is a nearly 2-hour drive down Highway 307.
Right.
A shared shuttle van is going to cost you $25 to $40 per person. Private transfers, which offer air-conditioned comfort, run $100 to $180. But the absolute best budget-to-reliability ratio is the ADO bus system.
You love YEO.
It is incredibly clean, highly reliable, departs precisely every 2 hours, and costs just 350 to 500 pesos, which is around $20 to $28. Or you can take the brand new Maya train. It takes 2 hours from the Cancun station, costing 500 to 900 pesos, depending on the class of ticket you book.
I want you to picture the arrival, though, regardless of how you get there. Because stepping out of that air-conditioned terminal or train car is a full-body sensory experience.
It really hits you.
The tropical heat and the heavy, wet humidity instantly wrap around your skin. The air here feels so much denser and earthier than the breezy open coast up in Cancun. The vegetation isn't polite. It's this thick, unmanicured, aggressive shade of jungle green pressing in on the roads.
Yeah, you know you're in the jungle.
And then eventually you see the water, these spectacular, unbroken, almost glowing layers of turquoise and deep blue. But here is the major question I have.
What's that?
Does stepping off a sleek, modern, multi-billion-dollar train into a dusty, unevenly paved, working-class Pueblo instantly shatter the jungle boho illusion that social media promised you?
It creates immediate, unavoidable friction, because the unique geography of Tulum forces you to declare your economic allegiance the absolute moment you arrive.
So true.
The destination is aggressively split into two entirely different operational realities. You have Zone 1, the Pueblo. This is the inland town center. It is authentic, it is loud with mopeds and street dogs, and it is highly budget-friendly.
That's the real Tulum.
Exactly. Then you have Zone 2, the hotel zone. This is a 12-kilometer stretch of sand road along the immediate coast, entirely curated for high-end aesthetics, where prices are mathematically 3 to 5 times higher than the Pueblo.
But if you want to know the perfect, maximally optimized 24-hour arc in Tulum, the way to do it right,
Let's hear it.
here is exactly what you do. You land at TQO, you take a standard taxi straight to your boutique spot in the Pueblo, completely bypassing the beach road traffic. You drop your bags, and you immediately walk to El Camelo Jr.
Oh, classic.
The best. You sit down at a plastic table and order an $8 plate of sizzling al pastor tacos and an ice-cold beer with condensation dripping down the glass. You sleep like a rock. And the next morning, you wake up at dawn, you rent a simple cruiser bike, you pedal 4 kilometers down the dedicated cycle path in the cool morning dark, and you arrive at the 13th century clifftop ruins at exactly 8 a.m. for sunrise.
Time the buses arrive.
Yes. Watching the first golden rays of light hit those ancient Maya stones while the ocean crashes against the cliffs directly below, well, that is the transcendent moment where the entire trip justifies itself.
To flawlessly execute that perfect arc, however, you have to deeply understand the geography of wealth in Tulum, because where you choose to sleep dictates every single aspect of your daily budget and your logistical mobility.
It's the most important decision you'll make.
Let's break down the 3 distinct zones. As we mentioned, Zone 1 is the Pueblo. This is the working municipal town. It houses the ADO bus terminal, the Maya train station, the large supermarkets, and the deeply authentic, cheap local food.
Right.
The massive logistical downside is that you are geographically 4 kilometers away from the ocean, meaning you are committing to a sweaty bike ride or a $15 to $25 taxi ride each way every single day.
Which adds up.
It does. Zone 2 is the hotel zone. This is the exclusive coastal strip where the economic friction is highest. And finally, Zone 3 is Aldea Zama, a relatively new, highly planned development area situated between the town and the beach that has become a massive hub for digital nomads and long-term renters.
Well, let's talk about the backpackers first, because honestly, they have it great right now. If you're looking at places like Great Tulum, it is incredibly social, it has a massive pool, a vibrant rooftop bar, and clean dorms are running just $18 to $28 a night right now.
That's a steal.
Mayan Monkey, another great spot, is $15 to $25. Casa Pantera offers this wonderful, relaxed jungle courtyard setting for $20 to $40. The Pueblo actually boasts some of the most highly developed, comfortable, and competitive hostel infrastructure in all of Latin America.
Moving up the economic ladder to the mid-range, you have beautiful, architecturally significant boutique hotels in the Pueblo. Bardo is a perfect example.
Bardo is stunning.
It isn't just a place to sleep. It's an architectural statement of dark woods and private plunge pools running $80 to $140 a night. Secret Garden, offering a quiet oasis with a central pool, is $90 to $150.
Okay.
Azura is $100 to $160. If you prefer the planned infrastructure of Aldea Zama, Selena provides excellent co-working spaces and private rooms for $120 to $200.
And what if they want to be closer to the water?
If you desperately want to be beach adjacent without suffering the hotel zone extortion pricing, properties located right at the fork in the road like Corazon de Jade or Casa Tortuga are actually reasonably priced right now at $150 to $280 a night.
That's not bad at all.
For families, Aldea Zama is mathematically the only logical choice. You absolutely need a 2-bedroom apartment with a functional kitchen, which runs $120 to $220. Let me be blunt. Do not attempt to take a child's stroller to the hotel zone.
Oh, God, no.
Pushing tiny plastic wheels through unpaved, massive sand puddles while actively dodging roaring diesel water trucks is a logistical nightmare.
And then there is the luxury tier. This is where the collapse is most visually spectacular. Let's talk about Azulik. You know it. It's the incredibly famous, visually stunning treehouse resort made entirely of woven vines and undulating wood, where you literally light your room with candles because there is no electricity.
Yeah, an icon of the boom.
At its peak, that exact room was commanding $1,200 a night. Today, it has plummeted to between $550 and $850. The same goes for the other heavy hitters. Tulum, Nomad, La Zebra, Jashita, they are all down to the $400 to $700 range.
Wow.
The sprawling Conrad Tulum is sitting at $450 to $800. Sosada Tuminka went from a peak of $346 down to $176 in the shoulder season. But looking at these numbers, I have to push back.
Okay, lay it on me.
If a luxury resort drops its price by $400 a night, is it actually a bargain now, or is it just finally begrudgingly charging what it was actually worth the whole time? I mean, paying $850 to sleep in a room with no air conditioning still sounds insane to me.
From a purely economic standpoint, it is absolutely the latter. The market is finally forcing these properties to price their rooms at their actual Caribbean market value, rather than their speculative, social media-driven perceived value.
They got caught.
They are returning to reality. But while where you sleep establishes your baseline budget, where you eat is where the real daily financial warfare happens in Tulum. We are looking at two entirely separate, highly insulated local economies, and the mathematical gap between them is wider than almost any tourist destination on Earth.
It really is two different planets. Let's talk about the joy of the Pueblo economy first. You walk into a place like El Camelo Jr. and Ojitos La Chipaneca or Taqueria Honorio. These aren't fancy. They're plastic chairs, paper plates, and brilliant flavors.
Incredible food.
You can get 4 al pastor tacos, the pork carved right off the spinning vertical spit with a slice of pineapple, for 80 to 120 pesos. That's $4.50 to $7 for an incredible meal.
Insane value.
A massive torta sandwich is $3.50 to $5.
Huh.
A huge plate of traditional coconita people, slow-roasted pork marinated in citrus and annatto served with rice and beans is $7.50 to $10. You wash it down with a fresh ice-cold agua fresca for $2 or a cold Pacifico beer for $3.
Sounds perfect.
You can have a beautiful, profoundly satisfying sit-down dinner for 2 people in the Pueblo for $35 to $55 total. We also highly recommend Burrito Amor for breakfast, Mi Amor, Del Cielo Cafe, and La Barracuda for incredibly fresh local seafood.
Now, aggressively contrast that by crossing over into the hotel zone economy.
Yeah.
You sit down at a beautifully designed, dimly lit spot like Heartwood, Kitchen Table, or Arca. A single gourmet taco is $8 to $14.
Wait, one taco?
Let that sink in. One single taco costs mathematically more than an entire plate of 4 authentic tacos in the Pueblo. A standard main course is $35 to $55. A single glass of house wine is $14 to $22.
Or a glass of wine.
Want a signature beach cocktail with mezcal and burnt rosemary? That will be $18 to $28. Dinner for two instantly inevitably escalates to between $200 and $380.
That's just offensive.
And it doesn't stop at dinner. If you want to go to a beach club during the daylight hours, they charge a hard $28 to $47 entry fee at the door and then immediately hit you with another $30 to $80 mandatory fee just to rent the sun lounger for the afternoon.
Which is just staggering to me. I have to ask, can a $55 main course at Heartwood ever be justified purely on its culinary merit? Or are you simply paying an exorbitant cover charge for the privilege of sitting in a jungle ambiance?
That's the ambiance.
Because, honestly, eating an $8 street taco on a plastic stool under flickering fluorescent lights at midnight while the town hums around you is a profoundly better, more memorable sensory joy than sipping a $22 cocktail in a state of clinical exclusivity.
Mathematically, you are paying what economists would call an aesthetic tax. It is a calculated 300 to 500% markup. It isn't driven by local inflation or supply chain issues. It is pure gatekeeping.
Wow.
They price it that high specifically to keep certain demographics out. If you want to bypass this massive restaurant markup entirely, the grocery situation in the Pueblo is exceptionally good.
Let's talk about the groceries.
You have large modern supermarkets like Chedraui and Soriana, and an OXXO convenience store on every corner. A 1.5-liter bottle of water is 18 to 28 pesos. Freshly made tortillas are 15 to 25 pesos a kilo.
So cheap.
A 6-pack of Pacifico is 120 to 180 pesos. If you are staying in an all-day Azama apartment, self-catering is a highly viable budget-saving strategy.
A quick, crucial note on etiquette and daily life while we are talking about food. Tipping is incredibly important to the local workers. 10 to 15% is the standard expectation, and 20% is generous for great service.
Yes, always tip well.
But you must watch your receipts in the hotel zone very, very carefully. They love to sneak in a line item called propina incluida, which is an automatic service charge. If you aren't paying attention in the dark, you will end up double tipping on an already massive bill.
Such a common trap.
Also, you need to adjust your body clock. Dinner in the Pueblo doesn't really get going until 8 to 10 p.m. The hotel zone operates slightly earlier, from 7 to 11 p.m. Bring physical cash for everything in the Pueblo, but Apple Pay works seamlessly everywhere in the hotel then. And please use basic Spanish.
Just try.
Saying por favor and gracias shows basic human respect. And it honestly genuinely impacts the kind of service and sometimes the pricing you receive.
Let's aggregate these disparate costs and look at the daily out-of-pocket budget. The hard 2026 math. For a backpacker, you are looking at $51 to $88 per day.
That's totally doable.
That calculation assumes a $20 dorm bed, surviving on cheap street food, renting a bicycle for transport, and completely strictly avoiding the motel zone entirely. At that specific price point, Tulum is actually highly competitive with the rest of the Central American backpacker trail.
For a mid-range couple, it jumps to $125 to $235 per person per day.
Yeah.
You are looking at $250 to $470 combined.
Okay.
Over a 7-day week, that is roughly $1,750 to $3,290. That budget includes a really nice Pueblo boutique hotel, eating at great local spots, paying for cenote entry tours, and maybe allowing yourselves one splurge day at a high-end beach club.
That's a solid trip.
And honestly, that is a massive welcome drop from 2022,
Yeah.
when this exact same mid-range itinerary was costing couples upwards of $4,500 a week.
The luxury tier is where the economic drop is the most violent. It is now calculating out to $485 to $985 per person per day.
Still pricey.
That aggressive budget covers fine dining every night, hiring private drivers instead of fighting taxis, and easily clearing beach club minimum spends. Back in 2022, that exact lifestyle peaked at over $1,400 a day.
Just burning cash.
The pressing industry question is whether this newly adjusted pricing makes Tulum competitive again against globally recognized luxury heavyweights like the Dominican Republic or Turks and Caicos. Finally, we have the digital nomads.
Ah, the nomads.
A standard one-bedroom apartment in Aldea Zama is $600 to $1,100 a month. Dedicated co-working space at Selena or Digital Llama is $150 to $250 a month. All in, living a modest local lifestyle, you are looking at $1,400 to $2,400 a month.
But I really want to challenge the nomad appeal here. For the digital nomads, if the power suddenly cuts out and the Wi-Fi completely drops in the middle of a crucial Zoom call with your boss, which happens constantly because the jungle infrastructure simply cannot handle the grid load, does the cheap rent really matter?
It's a huge issue.
Dealing with sweating through a power outage while trying to hit a deadline is miserable.
Uh-huh.
Places like Playa del Carmen and Merida are just so much better suited, technologically speaking, for serious remote work right now.
Exactly. The infrastructure instability is a hidden tax on your productivity. And even if your daily financial budget looks totally solid on paper, there are specific, highly engineered hidden mechanisms designed to aggressively drain your wallet the second you step out of your hotel lobby.
The traps.
We have identified 3 specific logistics traps. Trap number 1, the taxi cartel.
This one makes my blood absolutely boil. Let me be clear. There is no Uber in Tulum. The local taxi syndicate violently and politically blocked it from operating.
They protect their turf.
So you have a highly organized cartel controlling all the prices with an iron fist. A simple 4-kilometer ride from your Pueblo hotel to the beach will cost you 200 to 350 pesos, $12 to $20, for a ride that would cost $3 on a metered Uber in Mexico City.
It's wild.
If you take a taxi just 1 single kilometer down the beach road in the hotel zone because it's too hot to walk, they casually demand $15 to $25. A couple can easily blow $135 a day just hopping around town. It is pure extortion.
It is the textbook economics of a localized, unregulated monopoly. They control the supply, so they dictate the price. The logistical fix here is absolutely mandatory. You must rent bicycles.
Yes, get a bike.
It costs 150 to 250 pesos, or $8 to $15 a day, from reputable places like iBike Tulum or Rent a Bike. There is a dedicated, relatively safe cycle path connecting the town to the beach.
Which is great.
Alternatively, use the shared white vans, known as collectivos, which cost a mere 30 to 60 pesos. Or rent a car for $40 to $70 a day. But under no circumstances should you rely on taxis as your primary transit. Trap number 2 is the beach club minimums. They are actively gatekeeping access to the public ocean.
It is infuriating on a soul level. You show up in the Caribbean wanting to see the sea, and you are met with a bouncer telling you that you have to pay a $200 minimum spend just to walk past the restaurant and sit on the sand.
It's ridiculous.
But thankfully, the massive drop in tourism has finally forced their hand. Why did it take a massive, humiliating tourism collapse for places like Ojos and Maya to finally offer free beach access? Was utter hubris their downfall? Absolutely it was.
They thought it would never end.
They thought the boom would never end. Now, 16 different hotels, including Playa Paraíso, offer free walk-through access to combat the terrible PR they've accumulated. And the government finally stepped in and opened Parque del Jaguar, a beautiful public beach access point near the ruins, for just 415 pesos, which is about $24.
Trap number 3 is the Sargassum calendar blindness. We touched on this, but it is a systemic trap. Major booking platforms and hotel websites actively, intentionally hide the seasonal seaweed data from their marketing materials.
They won't tell you.
You blindly book a luxury trip in July, you show up, and the beach smells like rotting eggs. The logistical fix to bypass this entirely is to travel down to the Cancun biosphere side where the currents are different, head 4 hours north to Isla Holbox, or simply ensure your hotel has a very large, very clean pool as a backup plan.
That emotional letdown of arriving to a rotting beach is awful. But let's pivot to something even more serious, because we need to talk about safety.
We do.
Getting ripped off by a taxi driver is incredibly frustrating. But how does the actual physical safety of the region stack up against the terrifying headlines you see on the news? There was some very high-profile, tragic cartel crossfire back in 2021 and 2022 that triggered a severe U.S. State Department reconsider travel warning.
As analysts, we have to strictly separate the statistical reality from the sensationalized media narrative. Those cartel incidents were targeted disputes over local drug territory where tourists were tragically accidentally caught in the crossfire.
Right.
But the mathematical, statistical reward to an individual tourist from organized cartel crime is extremely low. However, when the State Department issues those dire warnings, it drastically alters the macroeconomy of the town.
Oh, completely.
It scares off the anxious, high-spending travelers, which violently accelerated the 30% occupancy collapse we discussed. But the real daily risks you face in Tulum are entirely different and much more mundane.
Exactly. The real risks aren't cartels. The real risks are getting aggressively overcharged by a taxi in the middle of the night, getting a severe skin rash from the Sargassum bacteria if you try to swim in the murky water, or, honestly, getting into a terrible cycling or scooter accident on the coastal road at night because it is pitch black, completely unlit, and full of massive potholes and drunk drivers.
That road is dangerous.
Dehydration from underestimating the brutal tropical sun is a huge medical issue, and opportunistic theft on the beach. If you leave your expensive bag unattended while you swim, it will absolutely be gone when you get back.
You also have to be highly vigilant about financial scams. Dynamic currency conversion at card machines is a massive systemic trap. Let me explain exactly how this works.
Please do.
When the waiter hands you the terminal, the screen will ask if you want to pay in your home currency, like US dollars or British pounds instead of Mexican pesos. It is framed to look like a polite courtesy.
But it's not.
It is actually a legal scam. The machine is applying a terrible, highly inflated exchange rate designed by the local bank to quietly skim 5 to 10% off the top of your transaction. Always, always hit the red button to decline conversion and choose to pay in local pesos. Let your home credit card do the conversion at the true market rate.
That is such a good tip.
Additionally, beware of the fake free tour pitches in the Pueblo. They are high-pressure timeshare traps designed to waste your entire day. And never use freestanding ATMs sitting randomly on the street, as they are frequently rigged with card skimmers. Only withdraw cash from ATMs physically located inside or attached to major, secure banks like Scotiabank, Santander, or BBVA.
For solo female travelers, the Pueblo hostels are highly social, welcoming, and statistically very safe. The massive wellness, yoga, and digital nomad community provides a great supportive network, but walking alone or riding a bike on that unlit sand road in the hotel zone at 2 in the morning,
Don't do it.
that is a hard, absolute no. The jungle gets incredibly dark. Base yourself in the Pueblo, join organized group tours for excursions, and always pay the extortionate taxi fee to get home safely after dark. For families, as we mentioned earlier, it's functional but incredibly stressful.
Way too stressful.
The lack of proper sidewalks, the terrifying taxi costs, and the sobering fact that you are 1 to 2 hours away from immediate emergency pediatric medical care in Cancun or Playa del Carmen makes an all-inclusive resort further north a vastly better, safer option for your peace of mind.
So we've rigorously covered the risks, the economic traps, and the massive costs. Let's look at the actual physical experiences that make people roll the dice on this destination in the first place. The extreme highs and the inevitable lows.
The highs are genuinely transcendent. They are the reason this place became famous to begin with. Imagine waking up before the heat breaks and arriving at Gran Cenote at 8:30 in the morning.
It's beautiful.
You pay your 500 pesos, about $28, and you are swimming in this crystal clear, freezing cold turquoise freshwater cave system. There are ancient stalactites hanging just inches above you, and little turtles are gliding right past your mask in the perfectly still water before the massive, loud tour buses arrive and ruin the peace.
You have to beat the buses.
You also have incredible spots like Dos Ojos for 450 pesos, Calavera, Car Wash, and Zasilha. When you get them to yourself, it's pure magic.
And the ruins, we touched on them, but sunrise at the 13th century Tulum ruins at 8 a.m. is phenomenal. For 209 pesos, or $12, you are standing alone in an ancient Maya fortified city built directly on a sheer cliff over the crashing ocean.
The view is insane.
The architectural positioning and historical weight of the site are stunning. Add in a cool 6 a.m. bike ride along the quiet sand road for $10, and rounding out the day with a $14 late-night meal of authentic El Pastor at Taqueria Honorio, and you have mathematically constructed a phenomenal high-value travel itinerary.
But then you have the honest, brutal disappointments. Standing on the hotel's own beach at midday in August, when the sargassum is thick and rotting, the sulfur smell is inescapable, it sticks in your hair, and the heat is oppressive.
Sounds like a name.
Or falling for the hotel's own food trap, where you look at your receipt and realize you just paid $55 for a mediocre, tiny fusion taco, and you are purely subsidizing a developer's real estate rent. And we have to be brutally honest about the Pueblo, too.
Yeah, let's talk about the Pueblo.
It is not a quaint, beautifully preserved colonial village like you find in Oaxaca or Merida. It is a loud, chaotic, unevenly paved working town with stray dogs wandering the streets and constant echoing construction noise from half-finished concrete buildings.
It's a boom town.
And if you show up to a famous cenote at 11 a.m. instead of 8 a.m., it is not a mystical, quiet cave anymore. It is a crowded, screaming public swimming pool filled with neon life jackets and oily sunscreen slicking the water. It really begs the question, is the gap between Tulum's highly manicured Instagram marketing and its actual gritty physical reality the widest in the history of modern tourism?
Analytically, it undoubtedly is. The marketing simply outpaced the infrastructure, which is exactly why we need to critically look at the regional alternative.
Yes, where else can we go?
If that aesthetic gap is too wide for your budget, where should you confidently take your money instead? Alternative 1 is Bacalar, located 3.5 hours south near the Belize border.
I love Bacalar.
It is a massive, breathtaking, 7-colored freshwater lagoon. Crucially, because it is freshwater, there is absolute zero Sargassum risk, ever. It operates on true historical Mexican pricing. You can easily secure a beautiful 4-star boutique hotel right on the water for $90 to $160 a night and eat incredible, authentic meals for $18 to $30.
Value is incredible.
The geographic trade-off is that it lacks the dense access to hundreds of cenotes and major ruins. But for a pristine, uncrowded Caribbean water experience, it is vastly superior to Tulum right now.
People constantly call Bacalar the Tulum of 10 years ago. You hear it everywhere. But honestly, I worry about that. Won't talking about it and pushing people there just artificially accelerate its own ecological and economic collapse?
That's a real risk.
Are we as travelers just blindly moving the exact same over-tourism problem further down the map until we run out of coastline? It's a massive double-edged sword. The second alternative is Isla Holbox, located 4 hours north on the Gulf side of the peninsula.
It's a totally different vibe.
It's a delightfully car-free island. The roads are made of sand, and you get around entirely on colorful bicycles and rented golf carts. You can swim alongside massive, gentle whale sharks from June to September and kayak through glowing bioluminescence at night. Beautiful boutique hotels sit in that perfect $80 to $250 range.
It's so laid back.
It's highly remote. There are no cenotes, but the pure, laid-back beach island aesthetic is absolutely immaculate compared to the stress of Tulum.
Bringing all of this data, all of these costs, and all of these experiences together to answer the show's namesake question. Is it worth it? Here is the definitive 2026 analytical matrix.
Let's do it.
For the backpacker. Yes, at an incredibly manageable $51 to $88 a day, basing yourself entirely in the Pueblo, relying on bicycles, and strictly avoiding the summer Sargassum season, it remains a highly viable, culturally rich, and budget-friendly option.
For the mid-range couple, yes, with conditions.
Yeah.
At $250 to $470 a day combined, you absolutely must base yourself in the Pueblo or the Aldea apartments. You must eat at the local spots, and you must visit strictly between November and March.
The rules are strict.
If you meticulously follow those rules, it's a wonderful romantic trip. If you stray from those rules and try to play in the hotel zone on a mid-range budget, it will be a financial disaster.
For the family, NO. The infrastructure friction is simply too high. The lack of paved sidewalks, the constant threat of unlit traffic, the extortionate multi-person taxi costs, and the distance from reliable pediatric medical care make it too logistically stressful.
Too much to worry about.
Base your family in a comfortable, all-inclusive resort closer to Playa del Carmen and simply do a curated day trip to see the ruins.
Which is fascinating to me because looking at this entire matrix, the only unambiguous NO is families. Does that mean Tulum has fundamentally failed at being a generalist vacation spot for the average family?
I think so.
Absolutely. It has priced and structured itself out of the mainstream. It's a hyper-niche destination now.
For the luxury traveler, yes, with conditions. The violent 30 to 40% price drop down to the $550 to $850 range, combined with the significantly lower crowd density and empty beach clubs, creates a highly unique, quiet buying window, provided, of course, that you only travel November through March to guarantee pristine beaches.
And finally, for the digital nomad or solo traveler, yes, with conditions. Solo females thrive in the Pueblo due to the strong wellness community. But remote workers and nomads paying $1,400 to $2,400 a month will constantly struggle with the bad internet, the drop Zoom calls, and the thinned-out community.
It's tough.
It's a great place to drop in for 1 to 3 weeks, but it is deeply frustrating for multi-month, highly productive bases. Which brings me to a final provocative thought I want to leave you with today, something to really mull over.
What is it?
If a place as mythic, as universally desired, and as heavily marketed as Tulum can undergo a catastrophic 30% structural collapse simply because it got too greedy, what does that mean for the next Instagram hotspot you see on your feed? Are the social media algorithms creating an entirely new, accelerated life cycle for travel destinations where they burn incredibly bright, overprice themselves into absolute oblivion, and are forced into humiliating economic corrections in less than half a decade? Keep an eye on your feeds, because the next Tulum is probably already inflating its prices.
That is the honest verdict from Phil and H.